Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. I am just sharing this around, y'all. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. All right, there we go. That is all shared. Yay. All right, so if you're here, say hi. Say hello. Hello, Libib. Hi, Denise. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. Sorry for the apparel, y'all. Today is a long day. Um, Coming out to you doing this in hot mess style. I have to go out and mow my yard and my neighbor's yard and trim some bushes and use the hedge trimmers and weed eat and all that good stuff today. Um, because I normally do that on Monday, and I was in West Virginia with Lee's family for the day yesterday. It was really good to see his dad and his mom and the fam and spend some time, right? Hi, Tiff. Good morning. So, I've been saving this devotion for you guys. Oh, I shared this in my customer group. Customers, be aware today, right now, this moment until this evening is the last day to take advantage of the free shipping for any order that's $25 or more at my web store, which of course is beautywithmolly.com. So you need to go in the group and you need to look on my page. I think I think it's all together Labor Day FS for free shipping. I think. But also, if you spend $30 in beauty on select pages, you get this really, really cute organizer. And I got one, so really, really awesome. So take advantage. Take advantage for sure. Um, so if you're here, like I said, let me know you're here. Let me know if it's your first time. I've also shared this into my other groups. This is not anything new. This is every Tuesday morning, which is me just sharing my time uh, with Jesus. And I think mostly it's about getting through life, getting through the tough times. And I think it's a difficult journey out there, no matter no matter what your age is. Let me say that. I don't care if you're in your 20s. I don't care if you're watching this and you're a teenager. Why aren't you in school? Just saying. I don't care if you're in your 30s, if you are just having kids, if you are my age, if you're 60 or older. Um, Life is a challenge. Um, and for me, walking a journey that's pleasing to God is a journey. It is a journey because believe me, if you saw the title, Having Grace Through Being a Hot Mess, that's a perfect description of me, is being a hot mess. Um, she is, speaking of this girl, uh, she does her best to reflect and share what I've been through, what I'm going through, how hard times can be, And grace, I've had people say to me before, and I've also had people who basically tossed it at me like, where's my grace? Like, you need to show grace or whatever. And I'm thinking, you know, sometimes absolutely right. I need to share more grace than I do sometimes. Um, I am learning that I need to try really hard to have grace like God does. But it always amazes me the people who tend to tell me that I need to show a little grace are the ones that in other areas of their life they don't have an ounce of grace. So I don't listen so much to people, but there's a lot of times God hits me over the head with that. And I think sometimes it's life. Life hits you all at once. things happen all at once. Have you ever just experienced every frustration that there is? I mean, sad frustration, angry frustration, you didn't complete something frustration, this is not how you intended life frustration, um, relationship frustration, work and job frustration, being unsettled frustration, and when you partner people hurting you frustration, people who you don't even understand their actions, you don't understand where they're coming from. I mean, there and when it all comes together, you feel like it's just turning into this big medicine ball of frustration. And then when it all comes together, you're supposed to practice grace. Yeah. I'm here to tell you, I know what I should do. But I'm here to tell you, it is a work in progress every single stinking day. Every day. Frustration of not ever being called up, frustration of not maybe for all my girls and guys that are in the onward group, frustration for feeling like you haven't been able to do everything you want to do with your business, frustration that people don't understand your business, frustration that people won't support your business, and then you're supposed to show those people grace, right? No, it's true, you are. But I'm here to tell you that's not always easy. It's not. It's not. And when you already feel like you're a hot mess in life, um, it is definitely not easy. It is definitely not easy. Um, Sometimes when you're going through things, you want to believe in God being there. You want to believe that God's grace is over you in a continual manner. Maybe it's sickness that you're going through. Maybe it's a divorce you're going through. Maybe it's struggles with your kids. Maybe it's struggle with your parents. Maybe it's trying to even understand a path that God is taking you. You know, that moment when you're looking up and you're saying, I don't remember asking for this indirectly. I don't even remember how I got where I am. Sound familiar? And it's not every facet of your life. It's when it hits and you think, man, how am I going to deal with this? Or how do I? Or why did I deal really great in the last 3 or 4 days with this, but today is such a struggle? Sometimes I feel horrible about myself because I don't feel like I show enough grace. And I try really hard to mimic what I read in the Bible and what God would want me to do in the midst of these things. Um, I have learned very quickly in life that when you're watching somebody's life and it seems like everything is just right on tune, that everything is perfect, I consistently have to remind myself that those are only the reels that they're showing that they want you to see. And they are absolutely allowed to do that because who wants to share the bad reels, right? Only dummies like me do that, right? You know. And you know you can give grace and you can receive grace. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in our own crud. We get so caught up in what's going on in the moment, where your mind is in the moment, that you're spiraling in the moment, that even when people are trying to reach out and give you grace in the moment, sometimes you miss it. Sometimes I think God is trying to show you grace. And see, for me, I'm consistently feeling like, why would he show me grace? Because have you ever had a pattern like you do really good, really good, really good, and then you just feel like you're just a complete mess up? Like every single day, there is something staring me in the face that tells me the different paths that I probably should have taken, the different choices that I should have made. I feel that a lot of times I am 100% tougher on me than God is. Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to think of that, because I know that for the longest time I wanted to blame God for every like wrong thing that ever came in. Have you ever been like that? Thank you, Lord. You know what I'm saying? I had to thank you for that one. Thank you for kicking me in the butt on that one. I'm not saying he doesn't. But I also have figured out that a lot of the things that come into my life, here's one, it's going to hit you right between the eyes. Your choice. You chose it. I chose it. And then we want to blame God for our choices. We want to blame God for the path that we chose to walk. When we have the ability to try to figure out how to get on a better straight and narrow. And God continues during that time to give us grace. This coming from someone who sent his son to die on the cross. And yet he still continues to give grace. Julie, that's such a good point. Once God forgives us, he's forgotten it, so why don't we? Julie, I imagine God is up there he has his own assistant, but get this, girl, his own assistant for me. Like, okay, Gabriel, come, no, Gabriel's busy. We're not going to be able to do that. Michael's busy. We ain't got to do that. So let's just say he gave me Joe. Matter of fact, let's go one better. He gives me Bubba. Bubba, I know you're one of my assistants, but what I need you to do is try hard to keep her straight. I believe that I probably have my own assistant up there because I'm the person who continually will bring up to God how I've messed up in the past, right? Even though he's forgiven me, even though God doesn't, I can imagine Bubba looking through the book going, I don't see what you're talking about, Miss Molly. I do not understand. I'm not seeing it. And then he goes to the index that talks about things that God has forgiven Molly for. Ah, there it is. There it is. Right there. There it is. Molly, those are past chapters. Why are you consistently beating yourself up? Do you ever find sometimes that you're somebody who you can show somebody else grace, like in an amazing way, but the truth of the matter is you don't show yourself grace. You don't. And if you can't show yourself grace with something, you will never be able to understand that God has forgiven you for those things. Yes, my guardian angel's name is Bubba. I believe that, Victoria. I do. I believe that. I believe that God has, and look, this is not scriptural and this is not biblical. I'm just saying, when you know how much of a handful you are and you know how much of a hot mess you are, you know that God has all them people. Some people have to assist him in me. People like me. That's what it is. Here she is out there again. Talking to our people on social media, and she's talking about grace. Now, God, this is Bubba talking. God, I guarantee you 5-1, not that they gamble in heaven, 5-1, that she gonna bring up stuff that I told her was in those past chapters that you already forgave her for. You know that she gonna talk about grace today, Jesus, but she can't even afford to give herself some grace. Right? Right? I think there's more people out there who completely get what I'm saying than don't. And if you are the person who's watching me, who you're like, oh no, I get this, and this is great, and I did, and this is going, and boom, and it's gone, and you know what, and I don't ever think about it again. I want to do this for you, and I am not being sarcastic, maybe a little. I am doing this for you, but that's not me. I want it to be. I want it to be. I want to be the person who's just like, I know he covered it. It's done. It's gone. Leave it alone, Molly. Now just go forth and do better. And I do, and then I fall back down again, right? Right? I mean, I should expect it at 60 years old. Do you know how many times I've fallen? Do you know how many times I've failed? Do you know how many times that I have not extended myself grace? Because honestly, I just really didn't know what that meant. All I knew is everybody else wanted me to be better, so I needed to be better. All I know is everybody else needed me, and there were all these things that I needed to do, and I just needed to get it done. And there was no time to give myself grace because I just needed to get stuff done. Yeah, that's a whole lot of living life that way. I need you to know. Good morning, Gwenda. But I have figured out that as you get older, I have learned more. But I still have those moments. I just think I don't have them as often now. But I have them. And life is hard right now. You got a lot of people out there working 2 and 3 jobs. I'm one of those people. There are a lot of people out there who are struggling with their health. They're struggling with scares in their family. There are a lot of people out there who are just distancing themselves from anybody who doesn't give them what they want. Now I'm going to tell you, you don't need to show yourself grace for that. You need to get away from the people who only want to be with you when you are performing how they want you to perform. Want you to show up when they want you to show up. Man, because guys, I'm telling you, that's a hard way to live. It's such a hard way to live. You don't want to do that. You try so hard. Yeah, Julie, I've read it. Matter of fact, I have a couple of copies of that one. And Julie, I'm here to tell you, as much as I love that book, you know me, I bring it. I keep it real. This is real talk here. It is so much easier said than done. It's so easy just to say, just do it. Just do it, as Nike says. Just do it. Because, see, there's somebody else on the other end of this who wants to keep me thinking about every time I didn't show grace. Every time I didn't show myself grace. There is this other voice on the other side of my shoulder saying, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve to show grace to yourself. And by the way, that person who has wronged you 1, 2, 3, 4 times, they don't deserve it now either. Poof, be gone. It's not what Jesus says. Jesus says, love your enemy. He says, love your neighbor. It's so hard sometimes that you have to show people grace who were supposed to be there, and yet they're not. You're supposed to show grace to that boss who just steadily uses you for the capacity that he knows you're good at, but he uses and uses and uses, and the moment that something happens and you can't do something, and then he buckles to tell you you need to do better. Just because he's a boss doesn't mean he's a leader. And obviously he doesn't know anything about grace either. So before I read this, I thought that I would definitely start this with yeah. Yeah, Julie, thank you. Everybody needs to pray that for me every day. Satan, leave mom alone. Um I think I remember telling you guys, I'm scrolling here for a moment, that my son told me one time, my youngest Anthony, told me one time when somebody said that they were on the fence about God or they were on the fence about this decision, but speaking specifically about their belief in God. And he said, man, I don't know. I do, but I don't, blah, blah, blah. And he says, I'm on the fence. And Anthony very simply said to him, do you know who owns the fence? He looked at him. What do you mean, who owns the fence? He says, the devil owns the fence. He likes it when you're on the fence because when you're on the fence, you haven't made a decision. You're on the fence. And I believe that there are times in my life that, I always tell people, even in business, my team or a rep will come to me and they'll say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I want to make sure this is okay with Avon. Of course, your first thing is, well, make sure you look at policy and procedure. But when I know the policy and procedure, and they say, I really would like to do this and do it this way. Here's the truth. I tell my team and I tell those who follow me all the time, if what you're doing is so close to the fence that you could touch it, get away from it. Get away from it. That will always bring you trouble. You want to make sure that anything you perform for your team, you want to make sure anything that you perform for your business, anything that you want to do, when you're looking at policy and procedure for anything, you don't always want to be near the gray line. You don't always want to be near, I want to get as close to doing it right, but could be viewed as wrong as I can just to get what I can get. No, no. My suggestion to you is get away from the fence. You go up to a fence that has a dog. There. There's a reason they're trying to keep the dog in the yard. They're trying to keep the dog safe, but in essence, too, they could be trying to keep you safe. Now, if you're dumb enough with the dog over on the other side of that, I'm sorry, unintelligent, maybe I'm not supposed to use the word dumb. If you're unintelligent enough to stick your hand over that, because you just know because his tail is wagging that he's going to let you pet him and he bites you, and then you want to sue the neighbor, but you stuck your hand over the fence, and the fence was there for you to stay away from. Think about it. I can remember one time when I was I was probably 11, 10 maybe. And my dad, we had at church, my dad drove Sunday school buses. So he would drive the bus and we would go around, and this is the day where it was okay to go door to door, and we would go and we would ask people, do their kids go to church anywhere? Sometimes parents can't go, and that we had a bus route that was in the area, and we would pick them up and we would bring them home after church. And I can remember one time we were going into a neighborhood to recruit the neighborhood. When you all wonder why I love Avon so much, see, this kind of stuff has been in my blood forever, right? And I can remember I had a sweater on, and there was a person that was up on the deck, and we were kind of talking to him, and there was a dog, and it wasn't a big dog. It was a little yappy dog, okay? Like, I believe it was some type of dachshund, if I'm not mistaken, now that I remember. And I remember I had my sweater on, but what happened is when my dad was talking to them, I was leaning on the fence like this, right? And that dog jumped up, no lie, like before I could blink. And he grabbed the sweater, but he grabbed me too. I'll never forget, I still have a little scar from it. And he grabbed me. Here's the deal. Do I get mad at the dog because the dog did that? I mean, certainly I don't like the fact that the dog did that at all. But the point is, I was on his fence. The fence that was supposed to alert me to stay away from the fence. There's a fence for a reason. People are consistently trying to get as close to the fence as they can. And you don't want to do that in life, and you don't want to do that in business, but more importantly, you do not want to do that where God is concerned. Guaranteed. You don't want to do that. God shows you grace, but you need to get off the fence. You don't just get off the fence, because the devil owns the fence. So, okay, I squirreled for a moment there, but I always think that's such a good analogy. And I will forever be appreciative of my son, because in anything in life, when I hear myself say, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about that. I'm like, okay, you need to think logically, Molly, because if you on the fence is never a good place to be, right? It's never a good place to be. So receiving grace. So here's the verse that's taken from this. Psalms 34:1. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. And this is how the story goes. See if you can relate to this. I couldn't even blame this one on hormones. It was just too much, happening too fast, and too condensed of a time period, with too many people determined to get on my last good nerve. Oh my gosh. I can absolutely relate to that. Somebody getting on your last nerve, I can relate. I'll give it to you in 2-word snippets. And while I'm running down my list, see if you have any empathy if you can find a way in your heart to have any empathy. Because I'm convinced if there is one way all of us are alike, it's in the reality that life isn't always so pretty. Hi, Quentin. Good morning. Lynn, I have a dachshund. She's a yapper. She will bite. See, Lynn, I know it wasn't your fence, but girl, I learned a huge lesson that day. Believe me, no leaning on the fences, whether I see a dog or not. I just don't. Even when I'm door dashing, Lynn, let me tell you something. I am very, very careful. Just saying. Hey, Miss Janae, good to see you, my friend. So, here we go. I am thoroughly convinced that we are all alike. And the reality is that life isn't always so pretty, right? Hold on, guys. I'm going to turn this on so I can see. Here's the 2-worders. Computer crash, birthday forgotten, whiny child, stained pants, pounds gained, feelings hurt, temper short, dog fleas, pantry ants, throbbing head, interrupted nap, sibling spat, timeout, messy car, gas prices, urgent messages, no time, doctor's appointments, waiting room, misplaced belongings, futile search, hand-wringing, messy kitchen, chores undone, laundry piles, paper piles, dinner flop, early bedtime, sheer exhaustion. And yes, all of this happened on my birthday. And all the girlfriends sighed a unified, have mercy. Or how about, God bless. Because when you hear these things, even though they're 2 words put together, these incidents, you get it, because even if your instances were different, you get it. You're like, God bless, have mercy, because you have been there. When about the time you think not one more thing can come pile up on this day, boom, it does. Like when you just know you need your kids to behave. You just need them to toe the line. Just please, you can be little sanctimonious, crap heads the rest of the week. But today I need you to toe the line. Today. And then they don't. Right? And you're like, I just can't. I really wish that I could put a godly spin on how I reacted in these situations. I would love to share how I smiled, how I remained calm and didn't yell at those I love and didn't pout about the forgotten birthday. I would love to be able to say I took the high road and handled everything with grace as my little halo shined. But I'm afraid only one word described my overall attitude. Ugly. U-G-L-Y. You ain't got no alibi. You ugly. You ugly. I remember that chair. It wasn't nice, but I remember it from high school. But have you ever really just gone back in time for just 30 seconds and said to yourself, oh, Molly, that was ugly. Wow, my reaction right then, completely ugly. Been there. I would love to tell you just once. But no. And when my ugly comes out, I am so often tempted to think that must be when God leaves me. I wouldn't blame him if he did. Who wouldn't want to get away from someone with an ungrateful heart and a stinky attitude? But my God is too full of grace to walk away. Grace doesn't give me a free pass to act how I feel with no regard for his commands. Rather, his grace gives me consolation in the moment with a challenge to learn from this situation and become more mature in the future. I am such a kid and I need to mature more. And that's why God's given me Bubba, my own assistant. Just saying. Grace is the sugar that helps the bitter pills of confession and repentance go down without choking. Man, I loved that when I read that. Grace is the sugar that helps the bitter pills of confession and repentance go down without choking. I was taking my fish oil this morning and my vitamin C, and I always take them in the morning. They're two of my biggest pills I take, my supplements every day. And dude, let me tell you, I feel like I'm putting them down with a gallon of water, because don't you hate it when you choke? Don't you hate it when it doesn't want to go down? Life is that way too, sisters. Yeah, it is. I have without choking. That's why the writer of Hebrews says, let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. And that's Hebrews 4:16. Grace is the reason I can go to God quickly, immediately, before I'm cleaned up, and boldly ask for his help. In the midst of my mess, God is there. Not after I tap him on the shoulder and say, hey God, can I tell you what I just did for the last 2 hours? No. He was there ready to give grace in the midst of my hot mess. In the midst of my pity party. In the midst of me suddenly not liking where life is. In the midst of me during struggles with the business, in the midst of me with not understanding why life just couldn't be more dang smooth. In the midst of that, he is there. When I'm short-tempered and flat out grumpy, I often don't feel God. But the reality is, he is still there. All I have to do is sense his presence. All I have to do to sense his presence is to acknowledge his presence and ask for help. And to make the choice to praise him despite my feelings. Y'all know, when y'all laugh at my hashtags, hashtag Jesus take the whole car, hashtag Jesus fix it. You know why I hashtag them all the time? You have no clue how many times I say that when I'm talking to God through the day. I mean, when I'm ready to open my mouth because of something that was just said to me or something that was just done or whatever that looks like, I am ready and I have to take that moment and go, Jesus, fix it. Jesus, forget the wheel. Take the whole car. Because I need to take a moment, because you're not going to be proud of what's about to happen. Yeah. That's me. Maybe I am alone. Maybe you all are a lot better than I am on this. Maybe You're just like, no, those people did wrong me. Nope, this did happen. Nope, they should know better. Nope, this person should be the way I want them to be. Nope, this should be happening. And you're just like, no, you're like in denial that somewhere along the line, while you're asking everybody else for grace, there is no grace coming out of your pores. You know how I can tell you that? Because I've been there on both ends, both sides of the fence. Remember the fence? I've been on the extending grace, and it feels so much better when I'm there. But I've also been on the other side where you feel like you've been hurt so badly, and it was just, there was no excuse, and this thing happened, and I hated it, and there was no grace for it. There was none, and I didn't want to give any, and I knew God was there tapping me on my back, and you know what? I just ignored him. I just ignored him because I just didn't want to do it until I was able to take a moment. Take a moment and look back at what my reaction was about to be, or what I was thinking it was going to be, or what Molly wanted to do, what I wanted to do in all this, what I really wanted to lash. I wanted to treat people exactly like they were treating me. I thought, you're talking about me, I can talk about you just as well. And I have to stop. I have to stop and I have to listen. And all I hear Jesus say is grace, Molly. Grace. Take a moment. I hear him say, they beat me, they spit at me, they cursed me, they hung me on a cross, they whipped me beyond recognition. And Molly, I showed you grace. And I need you to do the same. All I have to do is sense his presence and acknowledge his presence and ask for his help and make the choice to praise him despite my feelings. Though praise is not often the first or even the 10th thing we naturally think about when messy realities hit our life, if we keep praise in the forefront of our minds, it will become easier and easier to make that choice. Just like any other discipline, practicing it over and over will help it to become more natural. I can become a woman whose heart declares, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. Life is not always pretty. Rosie, can we just slap them first and then Grace? You know what, Rosie, I'm going to tell you, I'm not judging. I'm not judging. I think he would rather us do the Grace thing first and leave that part out. But girl, I'm feeling you right now. I just need you to know I'm so feeling you. Like, let me slap the stupid off you. Let me give you a little smart from my hand. Let me do that. And then, Lord, grace. Grace. It works better if you do the grace, Rosie. It really does. I love that. No, life isn't always pretty. That's a given. But we can have a glimmer of hope that it is possible to make wise choices with our thoughts, with our actions, and here's the big one, guys, with our reactions. Sometimes I realize my biggest problem with grace in life, in business, in relationships, in marriage, in family, in everything, it's never, my actions most of the time, I feel, are 85% spot on. It's my reactions. If there was ever a place where I know God said, let's figure out where your weakness is, Molly, my weaknesses have always been in my reaction. That's the truth. These choices involve getting honest with ourselves and learning sometimes over and over and over and over again. The power of praise, especially when the ugly comes knocking. So ugly. Remember, guys? UGLY. You ain't got no alibi. You ugly. You ugly. I have to say that cheer to myself. And then I have to extend grace to myself. And then I try to remember, Molly, you don't have to react in the moment. You're allowed to react after you have figured out how to extend that person grace. And sometimes, do you know that especially when we're reacting, sometimes the reaction is just not to react. Sometimes the reaction, the grace needs to be, let them figure it out. Because sometimes that over conversation, that over telling them, whatever it may be, then you're really going to be in the reaction stage. You don't want that. Sometimes you just got to let God handle it. Sometimes. Sometimes you just got to let them figure it out. So it's been the hardest thing for me as a mom is to be able to say, well, this is what I think, but you've got to figure it out. I do that more often now when my kids come to me with anything. I say, this is how I feel about it. But my question is, how do you feel about it? And if you don't know, give yourself a moment. My kids are very, very strong on what they think and what they believe and where they are in life. And I'm not saying there hasn't been changes because they have. They have. I mean, let me tell you, they have. But there's somebody who, like, when they were get set on what to believe, I have watched them evolve now into two young men who say, Mom, I know what I believe. I'm not on the fence. I know what I think. But other people think differently. And I'm learning that it doesn't mean that I can't like them, that I can't have a relationship with them. It doesn't mean that I can't still be their friend, as long as they are both able to extend each other grace. It's so sad to me that in the years of the pandemic and everything else, that people were just suddenly blocking people and unfriending people. And not because this person was toxic to their life, because they didn't like their views on a shot. They didn't like their views on maybe the presidency. I mean, the things that I'm thinking, that's all your life consisted of is what you think as far as that. So you're not going to show grace, and whether you're wrong or they're wrong, who cares? Since when don't we love people? We're all different in one way or another. Why aren't we just loving people through it? You know, there are many people who they get on here, they love me, and they're not even sure what they believe when it comes to God. It would be very easy, I guess, to just judge them, but I don't want to judge them. Do you think that anybody is going to want a part of my God if all I know how to do is judge them for something they think or don't think? Who would want to be a part of something or learn more about my God, about the Bible, about my Jesus, when all I can do is be judgmental about what they do, what they don't do, what they believe, what they don't believe? I've been on here for over a year sharing Molly's moments with Jesus. I have lost followers. I have lost team members. I have lost um, people that you thought were friends, but you figure out they're not. Simply because I decided to share another portion of my life. See, they were okay if I was sharing my business life. They're okay if I'm sharing the funny stuff, if I'm sharing the grandkids. But it got really iffy for them once I started sharing my relationship with God. But the reason I did it is because there's not any part of my life that God is not in it in one way or another. And I think some people were taught at a very young age that that's not true. That, you have to obey the Ten Commandments and you have to do this. And if you don't, and they put them on this strict regimen of what they got to do, and you got to go confess to priests, and you got to go to church 4 times a week. And if you don't, I mean, there is just so much that is out there that what people don't understand is that's religion. It's religion. I tell people about my Jesus, but then what I do is I drop them at the feet of Jesus. I'm hoping that there is something that's in my life, something that somebody sees, that they say, Molly, I don't understand how you can even handle things like that. But because you do, I want to know what helps get you there. And here's the truth. It's Jesus and it's grace. And Jesus is always good when it comes to me. I am not always great at grace. This is one that I still struggle with from time to time, y'all. Oh, I'm better. I'm better. Look, I need to tell you, I am so much better. I am so much further away from the fence, right? But I think that Satan reminds me, that old devil boy, kick him in the butt. Some days he will come at me with so many different things over a 24 or 48 hour period. Did I feel like I am trying to go a 100-mile race with $2 worth of gas in my tank? I hope that makes sense. Like, if that tank is supposed to be filled up with grace, I only got $2 worth, and I needed it to be full for the last couple of days. Man, that is hard. But that's when I have to stop and simply say, God, fill my tank up. Show me the grace. Show me where I need to be better, God. And you know what happens? He does. When I think life is so difficult, that life is so hard right now, that life is so empty without certain things and certain people, whatever it may be, when I give him a moment, he shows me exactly what I do have. When I'm missing what used to be, past tense, and I know it's never going to come back or be like that, I in the moment have to step up and say, whoa. And you know something? God shows me a lot when I'm door dashing or I'm delivering Avon. And I see these people that they would do anything probably just to have these little issues that I have, just to have a roof over their head, just to know they can fix themselves lunch, have a place to go in and shower and shave, and maybe just having a handful of people say, I care. See, I got more than that. And sometimes when a day is really bad, all I can think about is a really bad day. I'm here to tell you, ask God for his presence. Ask him for his grace. And as far as reactions, just don't react in the moment. I know how hard that is. I'm a reactor. But we can all do better, but it's a work in progress. It is. Again, let me go back to this. Let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Hebrews 4:16. God is there to give you grace. We are here to give grace to others, especially when it's hard. You're going to fall down on the job. I'm going to fall down on the job. But you're going to get back up and you're going to do better next time. And if we keep doing better, what happens is it starts to become a habit. Don't give up on you and the fact that, yes, you can be different. I get so tired. Men are the worst at this. I'm so set in my ways. This is what I do. This is who I am. And that is why you're lonely, and that's why people don't like you, okay? Because you never want to change. You never want to do anything different than you have always done because it's who you are. How is that working for you? People who are living life without a God to run to, man, how is that working for you? Because when the hard times come, and they will, I'm so glad that I have Him to run to. And in the meantime, He kind of keeps me on the right path and keeps me away from that fence, right? Because we all know who owns the fence. I hope your holiday weekend was good. For those of you who had events, I hope they were successful. I hope you were able to grab some of your loved ones and hug on them and love on them, and even the ones who irritate you, right? You know. And I hope above all that you show yourself grace first, because it is impossible to show others grace if you can't show yourself grace. Kind of like loving yourself. You know what? You got to show yourself some love before you can really embrace others. Maybe that's why I'm so good at love. Maybe that's why I even allow people into my circle and they end up hurting me. But you know what? I love them anyways. Because love is not something that just goes away. You can abuse it, but that's on the person who abuses my love. That's not on me. So go forth and do better. Pray. Ask God to help you with the grace, with the bad day. And do the best you can because that's all He asks for. And for everything else, He's there to forgive you for it. So, you know what? Talk to Him. Let Him know exactly what's on your mind. Love you guys. Talk to you in a week. Bye.